Greetings, fellow travelers. Tonight, we step not onto the battlefield, but into the dim corridors of an army headquarters, where the war echoes in subtler ways. Outside, trucks rumble, boots strike in endless rhythm, and typewriters chatter like distant machine guns. But in this small, windowless room, the sound is different, a sound that will haunt you far longer than artillery. Here, sacks of cold metal dog tags are dragged in from the front, each stamped with a soldier's name. Some belong to the living, some to the dead. All of them wait for you. But before we begin, settle yourself. Dim the lights if you can. Breathe once, then again, slower, deeper, until you hear it in your chest. Picture yourself in that room, the air stale with dust and sweat, the lamps casting yellow halos on scarred wooden tables. A tray sits empty before you, ready to receive its burden. You are not here to fire a rifle or storm a hilltop. Your battle is different, a quiet labor of names and numbers, where one mistake erases a man from memory, and precision is the only armor you carry. And while we walk this path together, if you'd like to keep uncovering these hidden labors of war with me, a quick like or subscribe helps these voices carry further than one storyteller alone ever could. I'd also love to know where you're listening from, a reminder that across all silences we are connected. And so, you bow your head over the clatter of the fallen. The first sack waits at your feet, canvas rough and grimy, seams stretched by its heavy contents. The smell rises before you even touch it. Canvas soaked with oil, sweat, and the sharp tang of iron. When you drag it forward, your knees complain against the floorboards. Your palms burn against the coarse fabric. Inside, the discs shift and clink. 1,000 small voices pressing against each other, desperate to be heard. You loosen the cord. The flood begins. Dog tags spill across the wood in a metallic rain, clattering, chiming, ringing as they strike the tray and scatter across the table. The sound is endless, a tide of steel that drowns the room. The lamp catches on stamped letters, glinting like tiny epitaphs. You pick one up the edge, bites your fingertip, and squint at the engraving. J. A. C. Jackson. Again. M.U.R. Murphy. The names blur together until they no longer feel like men, only statistics pressed into tin. The work is brutal in its stillness. Your back bends, your eyes burn, your hands sting, and still the tide of metal does not stop. This is the hidden labor of war, not glory, not victory, but the endless duty of remembering. Each tag placed correctly gives a family closure. Each mistake condemns a man to anonymity. This is why you are here. And then silence. One tag lies face up in the lamplight. You stare at the letters, etched sharp into the tin, and something stirs in your chest. A name you almost recognize, a name too close to forget. The name still burns in your vision, but before you can chase the memory, we need to step back. Where are we? Who are you in this machine of war? It is 1943, and the United States Army is stretched across continents. Europe is burning, the Pacific is bleeding, and every week new battles churn out new lists of the dead, the wounded, the missing. In the headquarters behind the lines, far from the trenches but never free of their echoes, the war is not fought with rifles. It is fought with records, ledgers, and metal tags that clink like a second kind of ammunition. Dog tags, they call them. 2 discs stamped with a soldier's name, number, blood type, and faith. One to stay with the body, the other to return. A simple invention, born out of chaos, meant to tether identity to flesh in a war that tears men apart. They are not glamorous, not heroic. They are cold steel, practical, and pitiless. And here in this narrow office, you are one of the sorters, the silent keepers of those names. Your hands are the bridge between battlefield and bureaucracy, between chaos and order. Officers barely glance at you as they pass through. To them, you are clerical dust, another cog in the typewriter hum. But to the men whose names you handle, unseen and unknowing, you are the last safeguard against being lost. The room itself feels more prison than post. The walls sweat with heat in summer, freeze in winter. Fans clatter overhead, stirring the smell of ink and stale tobacco. Desks are crammed side by side, trays stacked to the ceiling. Men and women bend over them, sleeves rolled, eyes red, fingers smudged with graphite and oil. Some hum to themselves to fill the silence. Others whisper jokes, too dark to repeat outside these walls. But all of them know the truth. The sacks will never stop coming. Sometimes, when the bags are dragged in, you can almost guess where they came from by the weight. A light sack might mean names of the newly enlisted, fresh arrivals to be logged before shipping out. A heavy one, those are harder. Those are the battles, the ones still warm from the field, carrying tags whose owners will not return. And so the rhythm begins. Spill, sort, record. Metal clinks into neat rows. Names are copied into ledgers that no one outside this room will ever read. Lives reduced to order, catalogued, then filed away. This is where you are not on the front lines, but in the silent heart of the machine, a place where the war speaks only in metal, and it never stops speaking. The work begins with a rhythm. At first, it almost feels like routine, the kind of mindless labor that lets your thoughts drift elsewhere. You line the tags, one after another, letters sharp beneath your fingertips, the sound of clinking steel keeping time. But war has a way of interrupting routine, reminding you that nothing here is ordinary. The first interruption comes with the door. It bursts open, two men dragging a canvas sack between them. They drop it on the floor, with a thud that shakes the tables, and without a word, they leave. You glance at the others in the room. No one moves, no one speaks. Everyone knows what's inside, and everyone knows it will not be the last. The sack waits, heavier than the air itself. How many names does it hold? You won't know until the cord is cut. Another day. Another interruption. An officer storms in, clipboard tucked under his arm, voice sharp with impatience. He wants figures, numbers, results. How many tags processed? How many filed? His eyes skim the trays, but never linger on the names. To him, they are statistics, nothing more. He doesn't see the way your hands shake after 12 hours, or the way your fingertips split from the sharp edges. He only sees columns to be filled. When he leaves, the room exhales, but the pressure lingers. How long before a mistake slips past under his watchful tally? Sometimes the interruption comes from the tags themselves. A tray tips too far, and suddenly the order shatters. Steel discs scatter across the floor, rolling into corners, hiding beneath desks. Everyone drops to their knees, scrambling to catch them before they vanish. Each lost tag is a life unmoored, a name that might never be found again. When the last one is recovered, the room sits in silence, the clatter still ringing in your ears. What if one had gone missing? Would anyone beyond these walls ever know? And then there are the sacks that arrive in pairs, one light, one impossibly heavy. The light one holds the living, men still drilling, still laughing, still unaware their names have already passed through your hands. The heavy one never lies. It carries the silence of battles you've only heard in rumour. You touch the canvas and feel the dampness of sea air, or the grit of desert dust. You wonder, which front has fallen this time? The rhythm always resumes. Spill, sort, record. But with each new interruption, the question deepens. How many names can you handle before they blur together? And what happens when one of them refuses to blur when it stares back at you, demanding to be remembered? The rhythm becomes your world. Morning or midnight makes little difference. The lamps glow the same, and the clatter of tags never changes. Your body adjusts to the work in ways you never thought possible. A permanent ache in your back, red grooves across your fingers where the edges slice into skin. Sleep becomes a thin veil, haunted by the same metallic chime you hear all day. Even when you close your eyes, the names keep flashing past, stamped in reverse against your eyelids. Around you, others endure in their own ways. Some whistle tunes under their breath, as though music could drown the sound of clinking steel. One clerk keeps a stick of gum tucked in his cheek, chewing until his jaw aches, swearing it helps him forget the taste of iron on his tongue. Another makes a game of it, betting himself on how many Smiths he'll find in a single tray. He laughs when he wins, though the sound is brittle, as if laughter has grown too sharp in his throat. There are rituals too. At the start of every shift, one woman rubs a dab of ink on her wrist like perfume, claiming it masks the stench of metal. Another refuses to touch the sacks until she mutters a prayer. The same words each time, whispered so quietly you can't quite catch them. You've never asked what they mean. Perhaps it is better not to know. The culture of the tags extends beyond this room. Soldiers themselves have their superstitions. Some bite their tags, leaving teeth marks, like proof of existence, as though a scar in the steel might outlast them. Others wear them knotted into bracelets or tuck them into boots, believing the discs closer to the ground carry them home safer. You've seen men string extras together like trophies, a ritual that makes you shiver when you picture those trophies spilling into your tray. And still, the absurdity of it all presses in. The army demands efficiency. Names processed, logged, filed. But efficiency does not belong to grief. You cannot count a man's life in the speed of your typing, or the neatness of your columns, yet that is what is asked of you. Numbers, tallies, ledgers, names reduced to inventory. And then, one evening, a whisper drifts through the office. A battle has gone badly. No one says where, not yet, but you see it in the faces of the officers who enter and leave without speaking. The room grows tighter, the lamps buzz louder. The air seems to thicken with waiting. The sacks have not arrived yet, but you can feel them coming, heavy with silence. You sort another tray, trying to steady your hands. But the question gnaws all the same. When those sacks arrive, whose names will they carry? The night begins like any other, with the familiar scrape of chairs and the rustle of papers. The air is close, heavy with the smell of dust and tobacco. You bend to your task, fingers already raw from the day's labour, when the sound comes the unmistakable drag of canvas across the floor. Only this time, it does not stop at one sack. The door swings wide, and 4 men heave in their burden. 2 sacks, then 3, then a 4th, each one dropped with a punishing thud. The floorboards groan beneath their weight. By the time the men leave, 7 sacks sit piled against the wall, swollen with contents that clink and shift with every tremor. The lamps seem to dim beneath the sheer presence of them. You know instantly what this means. Somewhere far away, a battlefield has just spoken, and its echoes have found their way here. The room shifts. Conversations falter. Jokes die in throats. No one needs to ask what happened. The sacks answer plainly enough. Fingers hover over trays, suddenly clumsy, as though even touching the tags will tie you too closely to the battle's ruin. The officer in charge says nothing at first. He simply stares at the heap, jaw clenched, before barking for work to continue. His voice cracks once, but only once. You draw the first sack forward. It is heavier than any you have handled before. The cord digs into your fingers as you loosen it, and when the canvas yawns open, the flood is merciless. Dog tags spill out in an endless cascade, clattering over wood, ringing like coins from a broken bank. The sound drowns the room, a metallic roar that will not end. Trays overflow before you can keep pace. The names come too fast: Williams, Johnson, Rodriguez, Patel. Whole platoons reduced to clinking steel. Your body strains to keep up. Eyes blur. Hands fumble. Back screams with each motion. Around you, others are already breaking. One clerk swears under his breath with every tag he touches. Another blinks back tears until his ledger smears. Still the sacks wait, untouched, leaning against the wall like a line of graves. And then it happens. In the blur of letters and numbers, one tag catches you. The stamping is familiar, too familiar. The name is not just a name this time. It is a memory, sharp and sudden, dragging you back to another life. A voice you once knew, a face you cannot quite let yourself picture. The disc is cold in your hand, heavier than steel should be. You stare at it too long enough for the officer to bark at you again. But you cannot let it go, not yet, because this time, the name is yours to carry. The work becomes a storm. The sacks are opened one after another, spilling their contents in waves of clinking steel. The sound is relentless, rising until it drowns the scrape of pens, the hum of lamps, even the officer's sharp commands. It is the sound of death multiplied, names colliding in a metallic chorus that refuses to end. You move faster, because you must. Hands blur, sliding tags into trays, scrawling names into ledgers, eyes darting from letters to numbers until they smear together. The edges slice deeper into your fingertips, tiny wounds that sting with every movement. But there is no pause, no time for bandages. Your body is a machine, straining against its own breaking point. Around you, the room fractures. A clerk drops a tray, and the tags scatter across the floor in a spray of silver. People scramble on their knees, chasing discs before they roll into cracks. The officer barks for order, his voice raw, but his hands tremble too. Another clerk makes a mistake, a number copied wrong, a tag set in the wrong tray. The correction takes twice the time, and the officer's glare burns hotter than the lamps. Efficiency, he says, but his voice betrays the lie. This is not efficiency. This is desperation. The air thickens with sweat, tobacco, and the acrid tang of overheated metal. The lamps buzz louder, moths fluttering against the glass. Your eyes sting, and your back screams with every bend. Still the names flood in names of men you will never meet, men who will never come home. And always, beneath the blur, that one tag lingers in your mind, the familiar name, the one that should not be here. You sort tray after tray, but the letters keep resurfacing, sharper each time, as though every other disc conspires to remind you. You tell yourself it might be coincidence, a common name perhaps, just a trick of the light, but the thought refuses to fade. What if it isn't coincidence at all? The officer shouts again, demanding speed, demanding silence. Someone mutters a curse. Another slams a drawer shut too hard, startling the room into stillness. For a moment, the only sound is the clatter of tags sliding against one another, ringing like coins in an endless toll. Your hands shake as you reach for another sack. It feels heavier than the rest, its weight pressing into your chest before you even open it. You know what waits inside. More names, more lives, more echoes from the field. But beneath that certainty lies a fear you cannot shake. What if this sack holds another disc, with the name you dread to see again? You loosen the cord. The sound swells. The flood begins anew. The hours blur into one another. Day or night makes no difference. The lamps burn without mercy, and the clatter of dog tags grinds on, steady as a hammer against your skull. Your back is a knot of pain, your fingertips torn raw, But the body adapts in cruel ways. What it cannot endure, the mind begins to unravel. At first, it is simple fatigue, a slip of the pen, a tag set in the wrong tray. But then the mistakes multiply. Columns blur until every Johnson looks like a Jackson, every Leah Lee. You blink harder, force your eyes to focus, but the names still dance across the tin. Your stomach turns, not from hunger, but from the iron taste in the air, as though every breath carries a trace of blood. Around you, others fray just as badly. One clerk rubs his temples until his skin shines raw. Another mutters the names aloud like a prayer, voice growing hoarse, until an officer snaps at him to be quiet. The gum chewer's jaw works faster and faster, like a gear about to strip. Even the officer loses his veneer. He slams his clipboard against the desk, shouting for silence, for order, for something none of you can give. And still, the sacks come. Always more sacks. They lean against the wall like mute sentinels, daring you to open them, each one heavier than the last. You know what they hold, but knowing does nothing to ease the dread. Then it happens. You reach into a tray, fingertips brushing across the scatter of steel, and you pull one free. The letters are sharp in the lamplight, not blurred, not imagined this time. Clear, unmistakable. It is the same name you saw before. The disc freezes in your hand, cold as ice, heavier than iron. The chatter of the room fades, swallowed by the pounding of your pulse. You tell yourself it could be another man. The army is vast, names repeat. But the thought collapses even as it forms. The hometown etched into the tag matches your own. The unit number stirs a memory you wish you could bury. Your throat tightens. For a moment you cannot breathe. The tag is no longer steel. It is a ghost, pressed into your palm, demanding to be remembered, demanding not to be filed, and forgotten like the rest. You close your fist around it, sharp edges cutting into your skin. The sting grounds you, but only barely. Around you, the work continues. Trays clattering, pens scratching, voices muttering. Yet you are no longer part of it. You are suspended in a silence of your own, bound to the letters stamped into that disc. And the question you cannot escape whispers louder than the clatter. What if the war has already taken someone you cannot afford to lose? The room sways around you, though no one else seems to notice. Lamps buzz above, shadows stretch long across the scarred tables, and the air is thick with smoke and sweat. But none of it matters. All you see is the tag in your palm, its letters carved deep, cutting into your skin, as though the name itself refuses to let go. The sound rises. At first it is the clatter of trays, the scrape of chairs, the endless metallic chime of steel on wood. But then it grows sharper, louder, until it is no longer sound but a roar. The discs rattle in their trays as though alive, each one striking the next in a cascade of echoes. It is the chorus of the fallen, their voices pressed into tin, rising in protest. You stumble. The tray in front of you tips, spilling its contents across the floor. Dog tags scatter like coins, bouncing, spinning, ringing as they hit the boards. The room erupts in motion, clerks diving to their knees, scrambling to gather the lost. The officer shouting orders that cut through the din. But you are frozen, still clutching that one disc, still staring at the name. Your vision blurs. For a heartbeat, you are not in the office at all. You are back home, standing on a dirt road lined with trees, sunlight filtering through leaves. A laugh drifts beside you, a voice you know, a voice that belongs to the name in your hand. The memory is so sharp, you almost reach for it, almost turn your head to see the face. But then the roar returns, drowning the image, dragging you back into the present. The tags on the floor seem endless. They roll into corners, slip beneath desks, hide in the shadows. Each one glints like an accusing eye. You hear the scrape of boots, the hiss of curses, the sharp inhale of fear as someone nearly loses one beneath the floorboards. The officer's clipboard cracks against a desk, demanding control. But the chaos has already won. In the midst of it, you look down at your hand. The tag is slick now, a bead of blood welling where the edge has cut deep. You realize you've been gripping it too hard, as if the name could vanish if you let go. Perhaps it could. Perhaps that is what this job has always been. A war against forgetting, fought with trays and ledgers instead of rifles. The noise crescendos, filling every corner of the room, every nerve of your body. You bow your head, not in prayer, but in surrender, overwhelmed by the storm of sound. And in that storm, one truth carves itself into you as deeply as the letters on the disc. This war is not fought in silence. It screams, even here, even now, in the clatter of the fallen. The storm breaks not with silence, but with exhaustion. The trays are upright again, the scattered discs gathered one by one, yet the sound lingers in your ears, as if the floor is still alive, with rolling metal. The officer mutters under his breath, scribbles something sharp on his clipboard, then stalks out without a word. His boots echo down the hallway until they vanish, leaving behind only the low hum of lamps and the rasp of weary breathing. No one speaks. Eyes stay down, hands move stiffly. The clatter has grown softer now, but it is no longer the rhythm of work. And for pace, peace, it is the sound of survival. Each clerk pushing through the motions to prove they can still move at all. Someone wipes their face with ink-stained fingers. Another slouches back in his chair, staring at nothing, lips pressed tight against words he refuses to release. You swallow against the dryness in your throat, but it does nothing to ease the weight pressing in from all sides. The tag is still in your hand. You should have filed it by now, set it in its tray, reduced it to another line in a ledger. That is the rule, the purpose, the duty, but you cannot. The letters have carved themselves too deep, dragging memories that do not belong here into a room that has no space for them. You think of the absurdity of it all. The army demands neat columns, efficiency, accuracy, yet the human heart does not work in ledgers. It stalls at a familiar name. It bleeds at the thought of recognition. And here, in this room, there is no space for bleeding. The others resume their rhythm, but your hands lag behind. You fumble a tag, set it in the wrong tray, correct it too late. A clerk glances at you but says nothing. Perhaps he has his own name haunting him. Perhaps he understands. Or perhaps he is too numb to notice at all. The work continues, because it must. The sacks still wait by the wall, silent and patient, promising more to come. They do not care about your hesitation, your bloodied fingers, or the name that burns in your palm. They will be opened, emptied, and sorted until the war itself decides to end. For now, you slip the tag into your pocket, just for a moment. A breach of duty, small and unseen. The edge digs into your thigh, a reminder with every breath that some names cannot be filed away, no matter what the army demands. The clatter resumes, softer now, steadier, but beneath it lies a silence louder than the noise, the silence of all the names that will never return, and the silence of the one name you cannot let go. The hours grind on until time itself feels meaningless. The lamps still hum, the trays still clatter, the sacks still wait like patient beasts against the wall. You tell yourself the rhythm is steady again, that the storm has passed, but it isn't true. Something has changed. You hear it in the sound. At first, it is only the familiar rattle of tags, striking one another, the clink and chime that has followed you since your first day. But now the rhythm carries something else, an echo you cannot unhear. Each clatter is no longer anonymous. Each ring is a name, a story, a life pressed into steel. and in every burst of sound you hear the ghost of the one that struck you most, the name that refused to blur, the one you slipped into your pocket, as though memory itself could be hidden from the war. You bow your head over the trays, letting the clatter wash over you. It is not prayer, but ritual. You tell yourself, you are not their priest, not their mourner, not their family. You are a clerk, nothing more. But the sound denies it. The sound insists you are their witness. Whether you chose it or not, the sacks keep coming. They always will. Each one drags another tide of names into your hands, another chorus into the air. You will sort them, record them, file them, until your eyes burn and your hands bleed. And yet, for all the work, no one outside this room will ever know what you carried. The world will remember battles and generals, medals and victories. It will not remember the clerks who bent their backs over trays of tin, fighting a quieter war. And yet you understand now. The clatter is not just noise. It is the sound of the fallen refusing silence. It is the sound of memory itself, rattling against oblivion. To bow your head here, in this small forgotten room, is to bow before the weight of history, not written in marble or ink, but in stamped steel discs that outlast flesh and bone. The tag in your pocket presses against you as you move, a sharp edge digging into your thigh. It hurts, but the pain is welcome. It reminds you that the names are not just statistics. They are not just numbers. They are lives. And so, the clatter continues, and you bow your head once more, not in defeat, but in recognition. Step back now, fellow traveller. Leave the narrow room behind. Let the lamps dim and the trays fall silent. Beyond those walls, the war marches on tanks rolling through mud, planes cutting the sky, soldiers writing hurried letters home. History will remember those battles in headlines, in monuments, in parades, of victory and grief. But the labour of the sorters will fade into dust, their backs bent over trays of steel, their eyes burning in the quiet. Yet without them, how many men would have vanished into anonymity? How many families would have waited for news that never came, left only with absence? The dog tag sorter was not given medals or glory, but their work carried weight as real as any bullet or bayonet. They ensured that names survived, that chaos was given order, that the fallen were not lost to silence. Think of what that means. In every war, there are the remembered and the forgotten. Generals carve their names into history, but thousands more exist only as letters pressed into tin. And somewhere, in some forgotten corner, hands like yours touched those names first, placing them in order so the world could remember. Even now, the lesson remains. Identity is fragile. Memory is work. To be remembered is never guaranteed. It requires someone willing to carry the burden, to bow their head over the clatter, and refuse to let it fade. Perhaps that is why stories like these matter. Not because they are grand, but because they are small. The quiet labours that keep history intact. And if you've walked this far with me tonight, perhaps you too feel the echo of that clatter in your chest. If so, I ask only this. Press like, subscribe, and share where you're listening from. In doing so, you help these forgotten voices travel further than one storyteller alone ever could. The war may have ended, the sacks emptied, the trays put away, but the clatter of the fallen still rings, and as long as we choose to listen, the names are not lost.